Welcome, deep divers. Today we're embarking on a really extraordinary journey. We're diving into a foundational text, one that's resonated across centuries. John Bunyan's 17th century allegorical masterpiece, The Pilgrim's Progress.
It's incredible stuff.
Isn't it? And just imagine this profound narrative. It was penned by a Puritan dissenter. Someone who, like many Protestants back then, chose conscience over conforming to the established Church of England.
And paid a heavy price for it, imprisonment.
Exactly. From a prison cell,
Yeah.
Bunyan crafted this living, breathing story. It's a spiritual journey, right?
Yeah.
From the city of destruction all the way to the celestial city.
And the insights, they're just astonishingly relevant, even for us today.
That's what gets me every time.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're not focusing on, say, Apollyon or Giant Despair, the big, scary villains.
No.
Instead, we're zeroing in on a figure who, honestly, at first glance, might seem completely innocuous, almost charming even.
You mean Mr. Bunyan's?
Mr. Bunyan's, the gentleman of good quality. But, don't let that pleasant facade fool you.
Right. Because his danger is different, isn't it?
It lies precisely in his polished subtlety, his apparent reasonableness. He represents this really insidious form of religious hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's one that expertly mimics genuine faith, uses all the right language, but underneath it's serving these profoundly selfish ulterior motives. Bunyan, with his incredible precision, he calls these motives by-ends.
By-ends. Okay, so that's our mission then. We're going to really dissect the anatomy of what by-ends considers his harmless and profitable faith.
Harmless and profitable. Those are his key words.
We'll peel back the layers of his character, really dig into his specific brand of theology, and this is crucial, and unpack the practical implications of his worldview for you, for your own spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Why is this seemingly polite gentleman, this agreeable companion, why is he one of the most dangerous obstacles on the pilgrim's path? That's what we're going to uncover.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how remarkably prescient Bunyan was. I mean, his insights into by-ends, they remain incredibly relevant for understanding the compromises we face in faith today.
Absolutely. The subtle pressures.
Exactly. Cultural conformity, the nuanced ways our own motivations can get twisted, This isn't just literary analysis. It's actually a profound guide to self-examination and spiritual discernment for any age, really.
Okay, let's do it. Let's dive right into the text itself. Let's start uncovering Mr. Bunyan's origins, what they tell us about him and the world he comes from.
The anatomy of a false pilgrim.
So, Christian and Hopeful, our main characters,
Yeah.
they first meet Mr. Bunyan's on the path. He seems to be heading the same way, right? Towards the celestial city.
Looks like just another pilgrim, a friendly face on the road.
But, as we know from Pilgrim's Progress, appearances, well, they can often be deceiving.
Oh, definitely.
So where does this seemingly ordinary guy actually come from?
Well, Bunyan, he's always so meticulous with his allegory. He reveals by-ends hails from a very specific place, the wealthy town of Fair Speech.
Fair Speech.
Okay.
The name itself feels loaded.
It is, isn't it? As you might suspect, it's no accident. Fair Speech immediately suggests, well, duplicity, doesn't it?
That's smooth talk.
Exactly. It implies a place where words aren't just for truth, but they're carefully crafted for appearance, for flattery, for, strategic advantage.
And Christian picks up on this right away.
He does. Christian, with his characteristic skepticism, his spiritual antenna are always up. He immediately questions it, almost proverbially asking, is there any good that lives there? So that sets the stage right away. It suggests we're dealing with a character whose polished exterior, his fair speech, is probably concealing a fundamentally corrupt interior.
So it's more than just him as an individual then. It's like a whole culture, a system that produces someone like Bunyan's.
That's exactly it. It's not just an isolated personal failing. Bunyan goes to really remarkable lengths to emphasize that Bunyan's isn't some anomaly, a lone hypocrite wandering around. He's presented as the very product, the representative of a comprehensive worldly system.
A system that opposes the true way.
A system that stands in direct, subtle opposition to the true pilgrim's way. His polite demeanor, his seemingly reasonable arguments, they all conceal this very deliberate, inherited philosophy of life and faith.
Wow.
So to understand Bunyan's, you have to understand the well-established kingdom he represents.
And Bunyan gives us all this incredible detail about his family, his very many rich kindred. These aren't just names, are they? It's like a who's who of opportunism.
It really is. It's almost satirical. We hear about Lord Turnabout, Lord Timeserver, Lord Fair Speech himself, Mr. Smoothman, Mr. Facing Both Ways, and Mr. Anything.
Wow. What do those names immediately tell you about the kind of environment Bunyans grew up in?
It's just a masterclass in character exposition, isn't it? Bunyan is showing us, look, this isn't just a personal failing, it's an inherited, even celebrated way of life. Celebrated.
Yeah, in his town, in his circle. These names are like a registry of worldliness and, frankly, moral pliability. Lord, turnabout instability, opportunism. Lord, time server, aligning beliefs with whatever's fashionable or profitable. Mr. Facing both ways, pure duplicity. Mr. Anything, just a complete lack of conviction. It's a systematic portrayal. It's like a rival aristocracy with its own values.
And even the church leadership is implicated.
Right down to the local parson. Mr. Two Tongues, Bunyan tells us, is Bunyan's own uncle.
Oh, come on.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It underscores just how deep, how pervasive this compromise is. It reaches even into what should be the source of pure spiritual guidance.
And the family history of this kind of calculated duplicity. It goes back even further, doesn't it, to his great-grandfather, the waterman.
Yeah, and what seems like a mundane profession is actually a brilliant stroke by Bunyan.
How so?
He explicitly states that this great-grandfather mastered the art of looking one way and rowing another. And Bunyans himself admits, this is how his family got host of my estate. So it's not just a skill, it's an inherited principle.
It's an inherited principle. The ability to present one face, speak one way, while acting with a completely different self-serving motive. It's the art of strategic deception, passed down through generations. And then to really cement his connection to this world of pretense, who does he marry? The daughter of my lady feigning.
Lady feigning, of course.
So from his town, fair speech, to his family, Lord Time Server, Mr. Two Tongues, to his very marriage, Bunyans is just steeped in a culture where hypocrisy isn't a shameful vice. It's an honorable, even profitable trait.
So as you think about Bunyans, what does this incredibly detailed genealogy reveal about how his faith is shaped?
Yeah.
And what are the implications for you, listening right now, understanding these deeply ingrained worldviews?
Well, it's absolutely crucial for understanding Bunyans. His so-called faith, it isn't some deviation from his upbringing, it's the logical extension of it. Bunyan is showing us that Bunyans isn't an individual who, occasionally stumbles into hypocrisy. No, he's an ambassador from a rival kingdom, a fully formed counterculture to the true Pilgrim's costly path.
A rival kingdom.
Yeah, with its own aristocracy, its own clergy, its own economic philosophy built on duplicity, and its own set of social virtues, like fair speech and feigning. It's an established order where what we might call hypocrisy isn't seen as a personal failing. It's systemic, almost revered, the way things are done.
Okay.
And for us, while it highlights just how profoundly our upbringing, our chosen communities, can shape our perception of what's true, what's valuable, what we even consider faith, it forces us to ask, doesn't it? What inherited principles, what cultural assumptions might be subtly guiding my own decisions, even my spiritual ones?
That sets the stage perfectly for the moment of truth. The direct confrontation between Christian and Bunyans. This really lays bare their fundamentally opposing views, doesn't it?
It really does.
How does Bunyans try to explain his version of the Pilgrim's journey?
This is where his true colors, or maybe his true principles, are revealed with stark clarity. When Christian presses him, about his walk, Bunyans, with this deceptive air of humility, claims his faith only differs from the stricter sort in 2 small points.
Just 2 small points. Sounds reasonable enough.
Exactly. But these points, though he frames them as minor, are foundational to his entire worldview. First, he says, we never strive against wind and tide.
Okay, path of least resistance.
Precisely. And second, we're always most zealous when religion goes in his silver slippers. We love much to walk with him in the street if the sun shines and the people applaud him.
Silver slippers and against wind and tide. Those phrases are just incredibly evocative, aren't they? This isn't just a casual statement. It's a manifesto.
It absolutely is. It's a concise manifesto for a religion of convenience, popularity, and comfort. Period.
Yep.
It's about aligning faith with the prevailing cultural winds, with personal gain rather than, genuine conviction or costly obedience. It's a faith designed specifically to flow with the current, never against it.
And Christian's response.
Yeah.
It's just as powerful, a beautiful counterpoint that lays out the real cost.
Oh, Christian's answer is direct, uncompromising. He insists a true pilgrim must be willing to go against wind and tide, to own religion in his rags, as well as when in his silver slippers.
Rags too.
Yes, and to stand by him when bound in irons, as well as when he walketh the streets with applause.
Wow. That's a clear line in the sand.
It's such a clear delineation of true discipleship. It emphasizes that genuine faith is often countercultural, it's costly, and it may very well involve suffering or social contempt. It aligns directly with the cruciform life described in the Gospels, a life that embraces suffering and shame for Christ's sake rather than dodging it.
So how does Bunyan react to this, to Christians' blunt assessment of what true faith looks like? Does he engage, debate?
And here's what's truly fascinating, his reaction. He doesn't engage in a theological debate. He doesn't try to persuade Christian with scripture or reason.
No. What does he do?
Instead, he takes immediate personal offense. He instantly accuses Christian of trying to impose nor lord it over my faith, and he demands his liberty.
Liberty. Interesting choice of words.
Isn't it? And his ultimate allegiance is revealed right then when he states, without a shred of irony, I shall never desert my old principles since they are harmless and profitable.
Harmless and profitable. There they are again.
Those are the twin pillars of his entire spiritual framework.
So what does Bunyan's insistence on those two principles reveal about his true allegiance? And why is that such an important distinction for you listening to grasp?
It reveals absolutely everything. His primary concern isn't truth. It's not obedience to God above all else.
No.
His concern is what benefits him, what brings him gain, and what avoids discomfort or potential loss for him.
Tom?
He later complains to his friends, that Christian and hopeful are so rigid and love so much their own notions.
Which sounds like projection.
Classic psychological projection. He's unwilling to bend to the true, demanding principles of the gospel, so he casts Christian's faithfulness as some kind of unreasonable rigidity.
Right. So this confrontation, it isn't just a simple disagreement over practice or style. It's a fundamental clash of kingdoms. Bunyan's principles are a direct inversion of the sacrificial life required of a follower of Christ. His religion isn't just a weaker, less intense version of Christians. It is, in its essence, an entirely different faith.
Wow.
It worships the self, served by the god of mammon. And for you listening, it's a stark reminder. What we claim to believe is often far less revealing than what we secretly deem harmless and profitable.
That's a challenging thought. And what's interesting is Bunyan doesn't just, slink away and stay alone after Christian rejects his views.
No, he doesn't stay shamed for long.
He quickly finds himself some very familiar company, doesn't he?
He does. And this is a crucial detail in Bunyan's narrative. He's soon joined by 3 former schoolfellows. Mr. Hold the World, Mr. Moneylove, and Mr. Save-All.
Oh, those names again?
Right. And their shared history is very important. They were all educated together by one Mr. Greatman.
Mr. Greatman. In the town of Lovegain, which naturally is located in the county of Coveting.
It just keeps building, doesn't it?
It reinforces the theme. This is learned systematic hypocrisy. It's not accidental, it's cultivated. They've literally been schooled in the art of self-interest.
So he finds the affirmation he needs. He was momentarily shamed when he was alone with Christian, but now, with his friends, he's emboldened.
Absolutely. It sounds very much like a spiritual echo chamber, doesn't it?
Exactly what I was thinking.
Their fellowship becomes this powerful echo chamber for rationalizing worldliness and self-interest. Mr. Moneylove, in particular, he poses this truly ingenious hypothetical question that perfectly captures their collective ethos.
Okay, what's the question?
He asks, basically, can a minister or a tradesman with a good conscience feign extraordinary religious zeal or maybe even temporarily become more zealous, specifically to secure a better paying position or to win the hand of a wealthy wife?
Wow, you almost have to laugh. It's so blatant, but also disturbingly familiar.
Isn't it? It's the kind of logic we hear echoed today, maybe phrased differently, but cleverly spun to make raw self-interest sound like, divine providence or wise stewardship.
So how does Mr. Moneylove justify such blatant manipulation of faith? What's his crafty logic?
Oh, he offers a series of incredibly crafty justifications. It's quite something. First, he argues, well, the desire for a better income is perfectly lawful, even providentially provided by God. Can't argue with that, right?
Okay.
Then he says becoming more zealous for a good cause, like getting a better job or marrying well, actually makes one a better man, regardless of the initial, perhaps mixed motivation.
The ends justify the means.
Pretty much. And finally, his killer argument. Since religion is good and a rich wife is good and good business is good, well then, using the first to get the others must logically be a good and profitable design.
Good grief. It's remarkable sophistry.
It's a masterpiece of self-deception and rationalization. The ends truly justify the means, no matter how deceptive those means might be. Religion becomes a tool, pure and simple.
And the group's reaction to this? Let me guess.
Unanimous applause, of course. They absolutely love it. They are so convinced by this logic, so sure of its unassailability, that they even resolve to pose the question to Christian later, believing their collective reasoning is just watertight.
I think they found the perfect loophole. So, for you listening, what's the profound spiritual dynamic happening here? When Bunyan finds his circle of friends, what should we take away from that?
This illustrates a really crucial spiritual dynamic that applies directly to all our lives, I think. When your conscience is pricked by truth, maybe from a sermon, a difficult conversation, reading scripture, whatever, you basically have two fundamental choices.
Okay.
It will either lead you towards genuine repentance, towards turning back to God, or it will lead you to seek out a community of compromise, a community that can soothe the discomfort, provide justification, and normalize your choices.
Find people who agree with you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Bunyan's, in finding his friends, clearly chooses the latter. His faith, which couldn't really withstand the scrutiny of Christian's truth when he was alone, finds shelter and validation within this fellowship built on shared principles: greed, self-interest, and rationalized hypocrisy.
It's a powerful warning, then.
It's a very powerful warning about the company we keep, and how that company can either sharpen our convictions or just completely dull our resolve and lead us astray.
That's a powerful point indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, we've really dissected Bunyan's character in the story. Let's pivot now to the deeper theological implications, because he really is more than just a character. He's a profound theological statement Bunyan is making.
The doctrine of a Bunyan's faith.
He absolutely is. Bunyan's isn't just a literary device. He personifies a specific and frankly perennially dangerous brand of false religion. He embodies so many biblical warnings against hypocrisy. He remarkably prefigures modern concepts like cultural Christianity, and he promotes a fundamentally defective understanding of salvation itself.
And at his core, he's really the archetype of the hypocrite, isn't he? This double-minded man that Bunyan describes so well.
That's exactly right. His theology, if you can call it that, is at its very core a theology of hypocrisy. He professes to be on a pilgrimage to the celestial city, the ultimate spiritual goal. Yet his true aim, his Bunyan's, is undeniably personal gain and comfort in this world.
Lip service.
Pure lip service.
Yeah.
He perfectly illustrates those biblical warnings against people who honor God with their lips while their hearts are far, far away from him. He is the quintessential double-minded man, unstable in all his ways, as James puts it.
Right.
And Bunyan powerfully allegorizes this in that image of his great-grandfather, the waterman, looking one way while rowing another.
That's such a great image.
Isn't it? And his desire to walk with both Christian and his worldly friends is just a doomed attempt to serve two masters. It's an explicit violation of Jesus' teaching. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Bunyan's is trying his hardest to prove Jesus wrong.
But this feels different somehow from, say, the Pharisees that Jesus often confronted. Is Bunyan's a different kind of hypocrite? Maybe more subtle?
That's a great question. And I think, arguably, yes. Bunyan's hypocrisy is even more subtle and therefore perhaps more dangerous than the overt legalistic hypocrisy of the Pharisees.
How so?
Well, the Pharisees often displayed a very obvious hypocrisy, didn't they? Meticulously observing external rituals like tithing mint and dill and cumin, while completely neglecting the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. Their issue was often this outward show masking inward decay.
Okay.
Bunyan's, in contrast, he doesn't necessarily neglect rituals or add external burdens. He adopts the very language and posture of the pilgrim. He wants to look like a true follower.
He talks the talk.
He absolutely talks the talk. But instead of adding laws, he hollows out the internal meaning of grace and discipleship. His hypocrisy is one of motive and utility. He wants to use righteousness as a tool for worldly advancement.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think of someone who volunteers at church events, primarily to network for their business, or someone who uses Christian terminology in public speeches to gain respectability, but whose private life shows very little genuine transformation or compassion.
Right.
That represents this sophisticated, pragmatic form of hypocrisy. And it thrives, doesn't it, in places where faith gets measured not by spiritual fruit, love, joy, peace, etc., but by external metrics like wealth, influence, or social standing. It's harder to spot, because he speaks the right language. He sounds like one of us.
Which brings us neatly to this very modern-sounding concept that Bunyan surprisingly foreshadows the religion of silver slippers as a portrait of cultural Christianity.
It's truly remarkable how prescient Bunyan was. You have to remember he was a persecuted nonconformist writing Pilgrim's Progress from a prison cell.
Yeah.
And he uses Bunyan's as this potent critique of comfortable state-sanctioned faith, the kind of faith that requires very little personal cost. Bunyan's is truly the 17th century portrait of what we now commonly call cultural Christianity.
So for him, religion isn't about deep conviction or a changed heart. It's more about social identity, fitting in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
His religion is fundamentally a social identity rather than a deep spiritual reality.
Yeah.
He's the type of person who's a regular church attender, who embraces religious labels and affiliations, but only in communities where faith is looked on favorably, where the cost of identifying with Christ is low, or maybe even socially advantageous. His explicit desire for a religion that walks in silver slippers with applause, and his absolute rejection of it in rags and contempt, that's the defining mark of a faith that simply cannot survive cultural disapproval. It crumbles under pressure.
It's that appearance of godliness, but denying its power.
Exactly what Paul warned Timothy about. It's superficial. Imagine someone today who passionately advocates for, say, faith-based initiatives on social media as long as it enhances their public image or aligns with their political tribe, but then quietly dismisses challenging biblical teachings on, say, generosity, forgiveness, or sexual ethics, because those might cause friction with their peers or cost them something. That's buy-ins in a carefully curated Instagram feed.
And Bunyan himself, writing from prison, he had direct personal experience with this very tension, didn't he? Between costly conviction and comfortable conformity.
Absolutely. His own imprisonment was a direct result of his refusal to conform to the established Church of England. For many people at that time, conforming was the path of least resistance. It was the wind and tide that Bunyan so eagerly follows.
Right.
Bunyan experienced firsthand the cost of owning his faith in rags. So Bunyan's philosophy, his core principle to secure his life and estate by aligning with the times, perfectly mirrors the temptation to just conform for safety, for social advantage.
So Bunyan's isn't just a generic warning.
No, he's a specific, powerful polemic against the spiritual bankruptcy that happens when faith gets entangled with state power and social prestige. He's the direct opposite of the costly, conscience-driven faith for which Bunyan himself was suffering.
It's incredible how that resonates today. How does Bunyan's story speak to the challenges of faith, maybe especially in culturally affirming environments, for your own walk?
Well, it serves as this profound perennial warning, doesn't it? In societies or circles where a Christian identity might offer social benefits, or maybe just help you avoid social penalties, it becomes remarkably easy to adopt a silver slippers faith without even realizing it. Bunyan's forces us to ask the hard questions. Is my faith genuine? Is it rooted in deep conviction? Is it willing to endure hardship, unpopularity? Or is it more of a convenient identity that kind of shifts with the cultural winds and primarily seeks comfort?
Am I serving God or my reputation?
Exactly. Are we serving God, or are we inadvertently serving our reputation, our comfort, our bottom line, and then just baptizing it all with religious language? It's a crucial question for anyone whose faith has maybe never been truly tested by real adversity or unpopularity.
And this leads to an even deeper theological error in Bunyan's whole approach. You mentioned a defective understanding of salvation itself, a flawed soteriology.
He does, because Bunyan claims he wants to get to the celestial city, right? That's the ultimate end, salvation. But he absolutely rejects the God-ordained process of getting there.
The journey itself.
The journey itself. The New Testament consistently presents suffering not as some sign of failure to be avoided at all costs, but actually as a primary instrument of sanctification. That process of being made holy, more like Christ.
Like Romans 5.
Exactly like Romans 5. It's what produces perseverance, character, and hope. This is the very essence of taking up the cross to follow Christ. It's not optional. It's central.
Okay.
So Bunyan's core principle, never strive against wind and tide, isn't just a practical preference. It's a direct, explicit rejection of this foundational Christian doctrine of sanctification through trial.
So if he rejects striving against the wind and tide, his theology literally has no room for spiritual growth through difficulty, does it?
Precisely. His theology has no category, no place for sanctification, that lifelong, often painful process of being made holy, because it actively avoids the very trials God often uses for our spiritual refinement.
So in his view, hardship is bad.
In his worldview, discomfort, suffering, opposition, those are signals that you're doing something wrong, that you've lost God's favor. Not that you might actually be doing something right, that you're on the narrow path. It's a completely inverted understanding of spiritual progress.
Does this worldview, this idea that faith should always be profitable, always easy, does that remind you of any modern ideas about faith and success?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where Bunyan seems almost prophetic. This is a clear precursor, centuries ahead of his time, to what we now often call the modern health and wealth or prosperity gospel.
Really? How so?
Well, the central tenet of Bunyan's religion is that it must be profitable. It must lead to the good blessings of this life. He and his companions, remember Mr. Money-Love's argument, they explicitly rationalize that godliness is a legitimate means to achieve worldly ends. Within this framework, suffering, poverty, persecution, these aren't seen as potential marks of faithfulness or tests or ways God shapes us. They're seen as signs of foolishness or maybe a lack of faith.
Like Mr. Hold the World calling Christian a fool.
Exactly. Mr. Hold the World calls Christian a fool for being so unwise as to lose his worldly security by pursuing a faith that doesn't promise immediate material gain. This is the precise logic of many contemporary prosperity teachings that equate material blessing with God's favor and faith.
Wow.
So in Mr. Bunyan provides this remarkably prescient critique of a theological error that would become a major force in global Christianity centuries later. He saw it coming, clear as day, right there from his prison cell.
That's a really profound connection spanning centuries. Okay, let's shift gears slightly now. Let's look at how Bunyan's character can be used as a profoundly practical tool, especially for those who are, leading and guiding others in faith. Pastors, teachers, mentors.
Shepherding the flock from worldliness.
So, for pastors and spiritual leaders today, how can the figure of Mr. Bunyan's be used most effectively in their ministry? What's the practical application here?
Well, he serves as an incredibly powerful and, I think, practical tool. Pastors can use the memorable figure of Mr. Bunyan's as just a vivid illustration of a subtle but really deadly spiritual condition.
It's the subtlety that's key, isn't it?
Exactly. Unlike, the obvious evil of a giant despair or the overt temptations of Vanity Fair, the danger of Bunyan's is his profound relatability. He's not some fringe character we can easily dismiss.
No, he feels familiar.
He feels very familiar. He's the well-dressed person sitting in the pew, maybe nodding along with the sermon, as long as it doesn't demand too much, as long as it doesn't ask them to sacrifice their comfort or their popularity.
So using him in preaching and teaching, it can make abstract concepts like hypocrisy or worldliness much more concrete, more personal for the congregation.
Exactly. Imagine a sermon series on, say, costly discipleship, or serving God, or mammon. The dialogues between Christian and Bunyan's, they can serve as these wonderful narrative anchors. They make those abstract concepts tangible, memorable, relatable.
Right.
The pastor's role here functions very much like Bunyan's character evangelist, remember him? He not only points people towards the wicket gate and the path of life, but he also faithfully warns them of the dangers along the way.
Like conforming to the world.
Like conforming to the world, like taking shortcuts, like listening to bad advice. The goal of teaching about Bunyan's isn't just for the congregation to sit back and admire Christians' resolve.
No, it's got to be more than that.
It's got to be about them soberly examining their own hearts, to see if they secretly harbor Bunyan's principles of comfort and profit. It's about poignant application, helping listeners to truly inspect their own motivations, their own allegiances, not just intellectually agree that hypocrisy is bad.
And Bunyan gives us this incredible rich typology, doesn't he? A whole range of false professions through various characters in Pilgrim's Progress. It's almost like a diagnostic tool for pastors, much more effective than just generic warning.
It truly is a diagnostic tool, and it's invaluable for ministry. Effective pastoral ministry requires accurate diagnosis to offer helpful treatment, right?
Makes sense.
A generic warning against false faith is far less effective than targeted instruction that addresses specific spiritual maladies. And Bunyan, with his deep pastoral heart, remember he was a pastor, provides this rich typology. He offers distinct profiles of different spiritual pitfalls.
So breaking them down helps.
By disaggregating these types, pastors, and frankly all believers, can gain immense clarity. It helps in counseling, in discipleship, even in self-assessment. Should we maybe break down a few of these types for us?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's dive into this comparative typology Bunyan offers. First up, we have formalist and hypocrisy. What's their core error? Their defining philosophy.
Okay, formalist and hypocrisy. Their core error is essentially externalism and legalism. It's all about the outward show, not the inward reality, their primary motivation. convenience. Specifically, they want to avoid the inconvenient and roundabout way of entering through the wicket gate, which represents proper spiritual entry, repentance and faith in Christ.
God, what do they do instead?
Their defining action is climbing over the wall to get onto the path, and they justify it with tradition. They claim it's a custom of more than 1,000 years.
Wow.
They trust in their mere presence on the path, but they haven't entered the right way. It's a kind of checking the box faith where just adhering to the form replaces genuine spiritual transformation.
Okay, got it. Next we have talkative. We've all met a talkative, haven't we? What's his issue?
Oh, indeed. Talkative. His core error is intellectualism without practice. He knows a lot, or sounds like he does, but it doesn't translate into his life.
All talk, no action.
It's pretty much. His primary motivation seems to be social esteem, the sheer pleasure of appearing knowledgeable and articulate about spiritual matters. He loves the sound of his own theological voice.
Right.
His defining action is this eloquent speech about theology, doctrine, spiritual experiences, which often masks a corrupt and prayerless private life. Bunyan famously describes him as a saint abroad and a devil at home.
Ouch. That's blunt.
It is. He loves to talk about the journey, but he isn't actually walking it faithfully. Imagine someone who can debate obscure theological points for hours, but is consistently dishonest in their business dealings or harsh and critical with their family. That's talkative.
Okay. And then our friend Mr. Bunyan, we've covered him a lot, but how does he fit in this typology?
Right. Mr. Bunyan's core error, as we've really zeroed in on, is utilitarianism and pragmatism applied to faith.
Faith as a tool.
Exactly. His primary motivation is profit, popularity, and ease. His defining action and philosophy is walking the path only when it aligns with wind and tide, only when religion wears silver slippers. And crucially, unlike some of the others, he actively seeks out company that affirms his compromises. He needs that echo chamber.
That's a key difference. Okay, what about ignorance? That's such a powerful name for a character. What's his deal?
Ignorance. His core error is profound self-righteousness.
Okay.
His primary motivation seems to be pride, but it manifests as this deep spiritual blindness to his own sinfulness and the absolute soul need for Christ's perfect righteousness. He doesn't get grace.
So what does he trust in?
His defining action and philosophy is believing that Christ somehow makes his own obedience, his own good works, acceptable for justification, instead of relying completely on Christ's perfect righteousness being imputed, credited to him.
He thinks he contributes to his salvation.
Yeah, he thinks his good intentions and efforts, maybe topped up by Christ, are enough. He genuinely believes in his own good heart and good deeds as the basis for his salvation, not realizing, as the Bible says, that even our best works are like filthy rags before a holy God. He's sincerely wrong, and tragically so.
That is tragic. And finally, Demas. He feels a bit different. He's the overt tempter, isn't he?
Yes, Demas represents a more overt form of worldliness, specifically driven by greed. His primary motivation is pure material gain. Bunyan calls it lucre.
Right, the hill lucre.
Exactly. His defining action is standing conspicuously by the hill lucre, right by the path, actively calling pilgrims to turn aside to investigate a silver mine. He isn't just a pilgrim who gets tempted like some others. He is the tempter.
He's actively recruiting.
He's actively recruiting, trying to lure others off the path for immediate material gain, completely forsaking the celestial city. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's trying to pull others down with him.
Wow, what a gallery of characters. So, for you listening, how can understanding these distinct types, formalist, talkative, Bunyans, ignorance, Demas, how can that help in discerning true faith, either in yourself or maybe in the influences around you?
Well, this framework transforms Bunyan's narrative from just a story into a profoundly practical diagnostic tool for your own spiritual life. Think about it. The counsel, the help required for a talkative who needs to align their actions with their words, is very different from the counsel needed for ignorance, who needs a fundamental grasp of the gospel of grace and imputed righteousness.
Different problems need different solutions.
Precisely. By identifying the specific error, the specific temptation, the specific spiritual malady, pastoral care becomes more effective. And just as importantly, your own personal application and self-examination can be far more precise.
Yeah.
You can better understand which specific temptation or spiritual weakness you might be prone to, or perhaps recognize in the teachings or attitudes around you. And then you can address it with precision, with the right biblical truths, rather than just vague spiritual advice like try harder or have more faith. It gives you categories to think with.
That's incredibly helpful, really practical. Okay, this has been so insightful, peeling back all these layers. Really back to your personal journey, the Pilgrim's personal walk, because that's really where Bunyan's matters most, isn't it?
The Pilgrim's personal walk.
Right. At the end of the day, Bunyan's isn't just some character to analyze in a 17th century book. He's a mirror, isn't he? A mirror we need to hold up to our own souls.
He absolutely is. Bunyan's is meant to be a mirror, prompting rigorous self-examination that needs to go beyond simply condemning someone else in a story. You know, it's easy to point the finger at Bunyan's and say, what a hypocrite.
Yeah, much harder to look inward.
Much harder. The real challenge, and where real spiritual growth happens, is looking inward and honestly assessing our own motivations, our own compromises.
And to help you do just that, we've actually put together some self-reflection questions. These are drawn directly from Bunyan's encounter with Christian, from the very principles he embodies. And we'd really encourage you to maybe sit with these, perhaps even journal on them later.
That's a great idea.
Okay, first question. Do I secretly agree with Bunyan's two main principles? Is my religious fervor, my enthusiasm for faith, strongest when it is praised and comfortable? And does it tend to wane, to fade, under criticism or hardship?
Think really honestly about that. When do you feel most zealous for your faith? Is it when it's popular, when it's easy, when it fits neatly into your social circles? Or is it when it demands genuine sacrifice, when it might bring discomfort, maybe even opposition? Be honest with yourself.
Okay, second question. When have I chosen to follow wind and tide? That is, the path of least cultural or social resistance, rather than standing firm for a difficult truth or a challenging biblical principle.
This gets right at compromise, doesn't it? Where have you perhaps subtly bent your convictions for convenience? Maybe for social acceptance, or just to avoid an awkward conversation or conflict? Have you found yourself maybe adjusting your beliefs even slightly to fit the prevailing cultural narratives, rather than letting God's truth stand on its own, even if it's unpopular?
Third question. What is my immediate reaction when my faith, or perhaps my adherence to certain biblical standards, is met with contempt instead of applause? Do I defend it with quiet conviction? Or do I find myself subtly distancing myself from those rigid and headstrong believers, maybe even internally criticizing them for being too much or unreasonable?
This reveals so much about our core allegiance, our fear of man versus our fear of God. Do you find yourself adopting Bunyan's language, dismissing those who hold firmly to unpopular truths as unreasonable, judgmental, extreme? It's a subtle way we protect our own comfort, isn't it? By separating ourselves from those who are actually counting the cost.
Okay, fourth. Do I choose my church community, my Christian friends, based on who challenges me towards holiness and real growth? Or do I gravitate towards those who simply make me feel comfortable and affirmed right where I am, without much spiritual stretch or accountability?
The company you keep is so critically formative. Are you seeking an echo chamber where your existing views and maybe even your compromises are just reinforced? Or are you intentionally seeking out a fellowship that genuinely helps you grow, even if, especially if it sometimes means hearing uncomfortable truths or having difficult, sharpening conversations? Who you walk with often determines where you end up.
And finally, the fifth question. In what ways might I be using my religious identity for Bunyan's, whether that's for social connections, business advantages, building a respectable reputation in the community, or even for direct personal profit?
This question really gets to the heart of our motivation, doesn't it? Are we genuinely seeking God first and His kingdom? Or are we subtly, maybe even unconsciously, leveraging our faith for other worldly aims? Are you using faith, or is faith using you, transforming you from the inside out? This honest assessment of motivations is perhaps the most challenging part, but ultimately, it's the most crucial step towards being a genuine pilgrim, not just playing the part.
That's a really powerful framework for personal reflection. Thank you. And it really underscores the need for deep spiritual honesty. And speaking of choosing friends, another crucial practical lesson from Bunyan's story is simply the massive importance of choosing your companions carefully on this journey. That really stood out, didn't it?
It is absolutely vital. Remember, after Christian rebuffs him, Bunyan doesn't just keep walking alone, mulling over Christian's words. No way.
What does he do?
He immediately seeks out and finds companions, Mr. Hold the World, Mr. Moneylove, Mr. Save All, who will affirm his compromised worldview, not correct it. They pat him on the back.
Yeah.
This serves as such a powerful cautionary tale against the danger of the spiritual echo chamber. A pilgrim's journey is profoundly shaped by their companions, and those companions can either propel you forward in holiness, or they can lull you into a really dangerous complacency.
So, for your personal walk, how vital is your choice of spiritual fellowship? What's the takeaway?
It's paramount. It really is. The practical application here is to consciously, prayerfully, seek out Christians and hopefuls in your life. Friends who will speak the truth in love, even when it's difficult, even when it might make you uncomfortable.
Iron sharpening iron.
Exactly. You want companions who will challenge you towards holiness, who will hold you accountable in a loving way, rather than surrounding yourself with money loves and whole the world, who will just rationalize sin and applaud compromise because it makes them feel better about their own choices too. Your spiritual community can either propel you forward towards the celestial city or subtly divert you onto a very dangerous side road that leads away from it. Choose wisely.
That's great advice. And that leads us, I think, to the ultimate, most profound application from all this. The one that directly contrasts everything Bunyan stands for. Embracing what Christian calls a religion in rags.
Yes. This is the crux of it, isn't it? The heart of the true pilgrim's journey.
Mm-hmm.
It means learning to embrace the very thing Bunyan categorically rejects, a religion in rags.
And that doesn't mean glorifying poverty or hardship itself.
No, not at all. It's not about glorifying hardship for its own sake. It means reframing the inevitable trials, the sufferings, the times of unpopularity that often come with a genuine Christian life. Where Bunyan sees foolishness, failure, a sign you're off track, the true pilgrim must learn, often slowly and painfully, to see these moments as God's ordained path, his way of producing perseverance, refining character, and deepening our hope in him, not in our circumstances.
So it's about finding spiritual riches not in worldly applause, but in faithful endurance through the tough times.
Exactly that. It's about finding true spiritual riches, lasting satisfaction, not in worldly applause or fleeting comfort, but in faithful endurance through adversity, leaning on God's strength. Think about it. Bunyan's philosophy of ease and profit. It could never have survived the true tests of the pilgrim's journey.
No way.
Could he have faced Apollyon in the valley of humiliation? Could he have navigated the terrors of the valley of the shadow of death? Could he have escaped giant despair in Doubting Castle? Absolutely not. His principles would have led him to turn back or find a comfortable detour long before.
Right.
Only the pilgrim who has learned to trust God through hardship, through the rags of difficult circumstances, and maybe public scorn, only the pilgrim discovers, like Christian did, that the key in my bosom, called promise, can unlock the doors of even the deepest despair. It's a key Bunyan's would never have found, because he would never have allowed himself to get into the prison where it was needed.
That's a powerful image. The key of promise found in the dungeon of despair. So, for you listening, true faith finds its strength, its resilience, not when everything's going smoothly, not in silver slippers and popular acclaim,
No.
but when it learns to walk confidently, perhaps even painfully, in rags, sustained by the steadfast promise of the celestial city and the unwavering presence of God himself. It's a complete inversion of Bunyan's entire worldview, isn't it? And it's the very heart of authentic discipleship. Outro.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive into one of John Bunyan's most brilliant and, I think, most enduring creations. Mr. Bunyan's A Fair Speech. He's far more than just a character in his 17th century book, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He represents the subtle but profoundly persistent peril. The peril of a compromised, comfortable, convenient faith. And that temptation exists in every single generation.
Yeah. His religion, so meticulously tailored for worldly profit and social acceptance, it truly is, as you said, a direct inversion of the costly discipleship that Christ actually calls us to. And through his lineage, those names, his principles, harmless and profitable, and his strategic choice of companions, Bunyan constructs this comprehensive, chilling allegory of a worldly kind of Christianity, one that has its own culture, its own logic, and its own dangerous, insidious appeal, because it looks so reasonable.
And we've seen today how his character reveals such profound theological truths about the nature of subtle hypocrisy, the seductive allure of just fitting in with cultural Christianity, and the absolute necessity, often, of suffering and perseverance in the process of genuine sanctification.
And for the church today, Bunyan's serves as such a vital pastoral tool. He's a clear, compelling illustration for preaching, for teaching, for counseling against that ever-present temptation towards worldliness, towards seeking ease over obedience. And for you, the individual believer listening right now, he is just a powerful mirror for sober self-examination, a profound warning about the company you keep, and ultimately a vital encouragement to embrace the very trials and rag that he so diligently and foolishly avoids.
Yeah. It's true. Well, his attire and his way of speaking are definitely 17th century. The spirit of Mr. Bunyan's is absolutely timeless. He is, in a very real sense, the patron saint of a faith that wants the crown without the cross.
Mm. Wants the destination without the journey.
Exactly. A comfortable destination without a difficult journey. And the stark contrast Bunyan draws between his path and Christian's path serves as this perpetual exhortation for all of us, doesn't it?
It really does. And maybe here's just a final thought for your reflection as you go.
Mm.
The way of Bunyan's, the path that holds out that seductive promise of being harmlessly profitable, of being easy, where does it lead?
Where does Bunyan say it leads?
It leads only to the silver mine on the hill Lucre, where Bunyan's and his like-minded friends, as Bunyan starkly tells us, are never seen again in the way. They just vanish from the true path. They don't make it.
Wow, that's sobering. So the Pilgrim's choice, it really remains the same today as it was in Bunyan's time, doesn't it? We face the same fundamental decision. Do we follow the broad path of comfort and applause, the way of Bunyan's? Or do we choose to embrace the narrow, often difficult, but ultimately glorious road that truly leads to life? What will your choice be?